Hello, everyone, and welcome to the learning series by Juno School of Business, where we are discussing skills that aid your corporate journey and make you a better professional. Today with us, we have Mr. Premanshu Singh, Senior VP Online Payments at Paytm, to talk about building a career in sales. Hi, Premanshu, and welcome to the platform. We are elated to have you.
Hey, thank you, Palak. Thanks for doing this. So, should we start?
No, I'll just quickly also probably start the webinar with some of the did you know that I think that's the best way to start the webinar with. So did you know, guys, that 60% of the jobs in India are sales jobs? 78% CEOs across organizations have sales background. In fact, it's sales that we do each day, every day. During our childhood, for example, when we wanted chocolates, while our parents were super skeptical, or when we were at schools and colleges, when we were making new friends, or at an interview where we were selling our skills, our experiences, etc. in play, or even during the old age that is yet to come, when we will be bargaining with our children to take a break from work and maybe take us to a vacation towards at Bahamas maybe. While all through our life stages, we are heavily dependent on sales. I think sales as a skill is barely taught in any school or any college. It wasn't taught to me for sure. I'm sure that's the same story with all of you. And hence at Juno School, this is exactly the gap that we are trying to bridge through live interactive sessions with industry leaders, a lot of activities, a lot of practice sessions, detailed lectures and conversations in the 8-week module that we've designed, which will also give you a lot of placement supports in the form of resume building, in the form of mock interviews, LinkedIn profile, etc. And with this, I think I will give the podium over to Premanshu with a question actually. Premanshu, how do we build a career in sales? Over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Palak. So I'll just briefly tell you about myself. I come from a very small town called Lucknow. Did my schooling there. Eventually went to Ahmedabad for my MBA and started my career with ITC. Basically selling cigarettes, right? And then after doing it for a couple of years, went to a healthcare company called Johnson & Johnson, wherein I did a lot of sales for medical devices and diagnostics for 5 years. Eventually moved to marketing. Post that, I worked with a lot of startups. So Practo did a venture of my own. Before that, I was the CEO of Coverfox. Then in 2020, I joined as the CEO of Paytm Insurance. And now at Paytm, I look at online payments. So largely, I credit whatever I've achieved in life to my couple of years spent at being a sales guy. Right. So today I'm just going to share, some of the things that helped me in the journey, right? And not trying to basically put nothing that you can easily find in books. So there is no story, but basically some tools or frameworks, right, that I have personally used as a sales guy. Yeah. So maybe I'll just begin. Let me know if the screen is visible. Yeah? Is visible? Okay, great. Right, so I'll just straight away go to the next one. This one. Yeah. So a question for some of you, right? What's common between all of them, right? Do you at least recognize some of them?
Yeah. Yeah, sir.
Can you name some? Naman, yeah.
Like Warren Buffett and Starbucks founder. I didn't know them. I forgot them.
Yeah, sure.
Or is it? I also know only Warren Buffett. It's my idol, sir.
Yeah.
So third one is Mark Cuban. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last one is Gary Vee.
Yeah. Perfect. Very good. So you guys know most of it, right? So see, the only common thing about all of them is all of them started the career as salespeople, right? And they ended up heading companies. So first is Mark Schultz and Warren Buffett, Cuban. So on the screen you see people who didn't have exceptional backgrounds or colleges or anything like that, but just learned the art of selling and kept on doing it for years and years till they actually headed. All of these are heads of multi-billion companies. So there's a worldwide head of Johnson & Johnson here. You see the worldwide head of GoPro cameras, Warren Buffett, Mark Cuban owns a baseball team, right? So all of them are really successful. Okay. So the first step, right, is to, and this is just from my personal journey, we should know who we are, right? Who is Gaurav, who is Abhinav, who is Palak, who is Premanshu, right? So understanding of ourselves is the most important thing, because it's your career. It's something that you're going to do for the next 40, 50 years of your life, right? So the approach to picking up sales cannot be, a matter of chance, right? So just to, on the left, if you see, there's a Venn diagram. It talks about build and sell. So in the modern world, we say there are only two kinds of people. There are builders and there are sellers. Right? So there are people who build. So when you say build, we'll say they are product guys, engineers, architects, right? That kind of people. And then there are people who can sell, right? And sell anything. And they say we need to identify who we are. If you are somebody who's typically a builder, doesn't like selling stuff, telling people what the product is, but just builds it out of curiosity, you're a builder. If there is somebody, who collects stamps or collects, cricket cards, right? Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yes,
Okay,
you're
okay, sir.
audible.
Yeah. So, right, and they say that if you can do both, then you're an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur is somebody who builds and then has the ability to sell as well, which is a very rare trait, right? The first thing is identify, are you a builder or a seller, right? And once you decide that, then you know, right, that your area of opportunity is half the world, not the entire world, right? Second thing you should see is this ranking system I use myself, which basically talks about what is important for me in life. See, all of us come from very different diverse backgrounds. All of them have different needs, right? I'll just take you through this 6 or 7 things I've listed here, and I've called it what matters to me. First is money or wealth. That some people want to make a lot of money in life, right? Because your passion could be owning a Porsche car, building a huge house, traveling first class, right? So you should know that, is money something that drives you, right? How far are you going to travel to be wealthy, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is work-life balance. See, there are a lot of people who have hobbies outside their work, right? Some people like cooking, some people like photography, some people like playing sports. So those people would typically not want to do a 7-day-a-week work or a 6-day week work. They typically want to work hard for 5 days, but don't want any work on the, say, on the last 2 days of the week, or who possibly don't want to do a 11 p.m. Midnight kind of. They don't want to be on calls like that, right? So they are people who value life and understand that work is only a small part of the life, which is we call the work-life balance. The third set of people is who are lucky enough to identify what are they passionate about, right? So, for example, if somebody is passionate about writing, right, and loves writing, which means that he should go into content, he should go into writing blogs, he should go into journalism, but possibly not go into doing sales. Right? Fourth is learning. So there are some people who are very academic oriented. For them, learning on the job is the most important thing. It's more important than meeting sales numbers or how much money the company is paying or the culture of the company. Right? Fifth is impact on the world. There are certain people who believe that they don't want to be selling soaps, right, and meeting targets month on month, but they want to do something which has impact on larger population. For example, people who are specifically very active on helping patients in COVID, people who want to do NGOs, people who go into teaching jobs, right? Because one teacher can impact the lives of hundreds and lakhs of children. And the last is recognition. There are people who always want to be on stage. They're very flamboyant. They're always center of the class. They're the ones who respond to a teacher. Whenever a teacher would ask a question, they're the first to answer. Right? They want recognition. They participate in sports, kind of thing. Right? So what I want you guys is to take 2 minutes, and what you need to do is rank this. So you have to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there could be nothing on which is not ranked, and there should be nothing which is on the same rank. So you can't say money is also one, work-life balance is also one. You can't do that. Okay, maybe I'll give you 60 seconds to do it, and I'm just going to ask one of you randomly to say what your ranking is. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so with the time is over, any volunteers? Anybody who's able to finish it? Sunil, you want to share? Sunil Yadav? Guys, am I audible?
You're audible, Premanshu.
Okay. Okay. Anybody who's able to rank this for themselves?
Hello. Hello. Yes, sir. Hi, sir.
Naman. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
on
what to do, sir? Sir, I can't understand what to do. Like ranking is money or wealth.
So, for example,
Yeah.
what you need to do is for Naman, what is important in his life, in his career? Do you want to make, if you have to pick one, कि सबसे important तुम्हारे लिए क्या है? Is money the most important thing for you, or work-life balance, or working in a space of passion, or learning? This is typically in case of a job.
Yeah.
Right? What are the most important things for you? So one is rank one is something which is the most important thing for you, and rank
So
6. Yeah.
Yeah. So I give first rank like learning, sir, and second is work plus passion, or third is money and wealth, fourth is work-life balance, and impact on world, and last is recognition.
Okay. So first you said is learning, right? So last
That's right.
recognition, which means that
Yeah.
you are, you are somebody who will. So there is an organization which gives you a lot of money, say an organization called A for doing a job, and then there is an organization which gives you less amount of money, but gives you enough chance to do things, enough opportunity, empowers you to do something else. So you will typically pick the second company over the first one, right? So you can compromise on a 20% less salary, but you will not compromise on the organization which gives you learning. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody is talking. Okay, so basically, see, there is nothing called a right or a wrong answer. But what I want you guys is to in your diary, right? You should rank this for yourself. And every time you're looking at picking up a job or changing, you should just look at the ranking and say this ranking can keep on changing. For example, when you're a 25-year-old, you possibly want to learn a lot. Right? When you're a 50-year-old, maybe a 40-year-old, you want much more money in life. When you're 60-year-old, you need more recognition, right? But I think it's important to keep track of this because it will help you decide what work do you want to pick, right? And which means that you'll never be frustrated. Okay, I'm just moving forward in the interest of time. Right? After you know what kind of person you are, that you are a seller and who basically likes to maybe learn a lot or make a lot of money, because salespeople have unlimited potential to make money. The more you sell, the more incentives you make, right? The other thing to choose is what kind of a company do you want to work for if you're not starting up, right? For that, the choices are largely this. For example, when I was building my career, I basically said I want to understand the users most. So I will typically work in FMCG company wherein I directly work with the end user, right? So which is typically a B2C journey. Like if you work for a Flipkart, it's a B2C company. Business to consumer. Flipkart selling directly to the end user. Then it could be B2B. For example, if you look at medical products, for example, if somebody has arthritis and you look at a knee replacement product, it is not bought by the consumer itself. It is sold or recommended by a doctor, right? So that is a B2B2C sales. So a Johnson & Johnson will go and sell the products to a hospital, and a hospital will eventually give it to the end user, which is a B2B2C sale. And second is B2B. So you can be a supplier, to another business. So for example, you could be supplying, grocery to a restaurant, right? Then you are a B2C business. So it's important to know what are you good at. In B2B, you should be exceptionally good at, negotiating, talking to businesses. To a consumer, you need to figure out who is my consumer segment. Why are they buying the product? Why are they not buying the product? What is my competition, right? So it's important to figure out, what kind of business you want to go for. Second thing is culture. See, you would typically, everybody has a different personality. Some people are introvert, some people are extrovert. Some people like aggressive culture. Some people like very calm ways of doing things. So it is very important to figure out what is the culture that suits you. Right? So like they say, if you cannot evaluate a fish by its ability to climb a tree. Right? A fish is evaluated by its ability to swim fast. Similarly, you don't look at a human being by the ability to compete with the tiger. So I think everybody is unique, and it's important to find the right place for you. Other thing to look at is the business local or global? And why is it important? Because there are a lot of cultural nuances. Right? Like I come from a Hindi speaking belt. Right? If I go to say China to work in a company, right, I will need to know the language. I would need to learn a lot about how do people consume products there. What do they buy? Do they buy on discount, or do they buy on a specific day? Right? So there are a lot of nuances. So working with a local company or working with a global company also depends on your aspiration. Right? Local has a limitation of the market, or global has no limitation of the market. It is cross country. So if you sometimes want to work in a different country, maybe you need to work for a global company. Okay? Then also looking at the stage of the company, early stage, growth stage, and market leader. So for example, if you look at Apple, right? Apple sells iPhone. It is a market leader in its segment. You don't need to sell. People stand in queues to go to the shop. So with the market leader, you know that there is obviously a pull in the market for the product. It is very easy to do sales. But you, the salesperson, will not be as valued, right, in a Apple than an early stage company, because early stage company will be built on sales, for example, right, which means you are more valuable to the company vis-a-vis a company which is a market leader. So also understanding, what suits you. In an early stage company, the product will not be perfect. But think of a mobile phone that you join a company which has launched a new mobile phone called X. So nobody knows the product, nobody knows the performance, there is no history, there are not enough people using the product. But if an aggressive sales guy will see that an opportunity. You need to know, you need to do the first sale and then do the 100 sale and then do the 1,000 sale. So you are the one who knows how to drive that product. Right? So I think choice of stage of company is super critical. Right? Then on the right hand side as well, there are a couple of things. For example, you can say, does the company give great sales incentives? Is it a sales driven company or a product driven company? See, if you go to a product driven company, the sales guy, you will not be able to create a right impact, because it's a product driven company. If you go to so for example, Baiju is largely a sales driven company. If you go to Baiju, right, you know that salespeople are highly valued there because most of the revenues come from sales. Right? Vis-a-vis you go to a Netflix, right? Netflix, it's the people buy subscriptions on the portal. There is no sales people doing it. So the sales guy, you might not be as valuable in Netflix as compared to a Baiju, for example. Also, if you look in the middle, I've said market tailwinds and what are you good at, right? There's a Venn diagram. So, and it's very, very important to know what sector or what industry to go into, right? And why I say this is, if you were given a choice, right, will you sell Tata Sky subscriptions or will you sell Netflix subscriptions, right? And anybody? If given a choice, will you sell a Tata Sky subscription or a Netflix subscription?
So Tata Sky subscription.
Okay. Why will you sell Tata Sky?
So firstly, we have to know lots of feature about that the Tata Sky. Then we go to sell, sir.
Okay.
But
so,
because if we work like for Netflix, so we don't value, sir.
Yeah. So that is the right answer in that context. But I'm saying, agar industry choose karna hai, if you choose the industry, a DTH industry and a OTT industry, right? Then largely it is better to choose a Netflix over a Tata Sky. The reason is the market share or the number of users who use Tata Sky declining.
Okay.
Right? And the number of users who are using Netflix are increasing. Which means it is much tougher to sell DTH subscription than selling Netflix subscription.
Yeah, that's right, sir.
Right? So DTH, the market share is not growing, in fact, it's declining, which means there are headwinds. you always want to run in the direction of the wind because the wind will support you. You don't want to fight against a strong wind. So pick an industry which is growing, right? And second thing is something that you're good at, which is what we looked at the last slide, and which is what you're seeing in this slide as well. If you're able to find an industry which is fast growing, and you become really good at selling it, then there is nothing that is going to stop you, right? So this is just a framework to look at what is the kind of company you should choose. Okay, I'll just 1 second. Yeah. See, a lot of sales, and I'm just talking about the science of selling, not the art of selling. See, good salespeople, right, always have calculations in the mind. Right? For example, let's look at a very simple example. Is if you have to sell a book, the first thing you need to know is what is the cost of writing a book, what is the cost of printing a book, what is the cost of selling the book, so that you know that above what cost is the company going to make money. And it's very important. Second thing to look at is what is the price of the book, at what is the price at which the publisher wants to sell the book. Third thing is value, right? And value is neither cost nor price. Value is what is in the mind of the user. So there is this Amitabh Bachchan movie, I think in 70s or 80s, wherein Amitabh Bachchan goes and buys a building, right, at very high prices, more than double or triple of the price. And after he has done the purchase, the builder comes to him and says that, let me tell you this, you're stupid, you bought this building at a very high price. I would have sold it to you very cheaply. And then he says, you actually sold it to me very cheaply. I would have paid more for this because my mother used to work here, right, as a laborer. Right? This is a part of a movie. Now value जो होता है वो user के mind में होता है. It is not the price, right? So a painting or a ugly sketch made by your daughter is more valuable for you, right, than a painting that you purchase in the market because of emotional value, right? Then you should know cost of goods sold. It is largely cost, but doesn't include distribution cost and those kind of things as well. What is revenue? I'll just go a little faster. Revenue, unit economics. For every book that I sell, right, what is my cost of selling? Okay, and it is super critical. If the cost of selling is lower than the price, then there is profit. If the cost is higher, then for every unit of book that the company sells, it is incurring loss. How does it impact you? It impacts you because it will restrict the ability of the company to hire more salespeople, or to spend more money on you, or to give you more increments or more incentive. Right? Right. Other thing to know is what is LTV, which is the lifetime value of a customer. For example, if you are, if you sell, say, dog food, right? Packed dog food, it is tough to crack a customer. But once you crack a customer, you know that a dog will eat the same food every week. So without even selling, the same customer is buying the same product week on week, week on week, week on, which means that the lifetime value for customer is very high, right? Vis-a-vis, if you sell, say, a sandwich in a local train, you only meet the customer once. There is no brand. So एक ही बार में आपको पैसा बनाना, right? Then cost of CAC, which is cost of customer acquisition. How much money do I spend in acquiring a customer? So suppose you were selling 100 books and your salary was 100 rupees, right? And then 10 rupees was your cost of travel, incentive, blah, blah. Which means that for selling 100 books, you are spending 110 books, which means 110 by 100, which is 1 rupee 10 paisa is the cost of acquiring a customer, right? Receivables, you might do a sale, but has the customer eventually paid or not, right? And typically in B2B, people take 3, 4, 6 months to clear. So look at what is churn. What are the customers that you have acquired, but they have never done a repeat purchase? Once they have bought and then they haven't, because it will give you a lot of learnings. Then I'm going to cover funnels, and conversion ratios later. So we said know the maths. A sales guy understands all the maths in the mind. Also look at the market. So if you are selling mobile phones, you should know everything about the mobile phone. because nowadays the customers are really more informed. See, even things like product brochures, you should go to their website. You should look at, you should meet happy customers. So you should figure out a way to connect with customers on any platform and say, give me feedback about the product. Because a happy customer will tell you what they liked about the product. Then you should look at customers who are really angry or churned. They always tend to give the best feedback. They will say what they didn't like about the product. And some of the learnings of that, you can come back and give the feedback to the organization, and the organization can improve. Right? For example, a simple thing like once, I launched AIM matchboxes, in the market of Rajasthan. And that time ship used to be the competition. Right? And when we started keeping AIM matchboxes, we saw that first month, because we were pushing, we got a lot of sales of matchboxes. After subsequent month, we saw that, shopkeepers were not placing orders. And then we realized there's something wrong. Okay? Then we, disguised as customers, went to a lot of cigarette shops and asked for AIM matchboxes. And every time we used to take AIM matchbox, customers or the shop people come and say, oh, don't use that. Right? Because they would say, oh, the fire falls on your shirt. It breaks and falls on your shirt. And see, that kind of a feedback you'll never get sitting in your rooms and offices. Right? Go and, because see, the customers are not totally changed. Earlier it was all offline. Now it's online. People go and it's very easy to give online reviews. It's very important that, read all the reviews, and specifically when I go and buy on Amazon or any product, I always read the 1-star reviews first, because then I know what is wrong with the product. See, customers always have choices. If you are a mobile phone company, if they're not using a mobile phone, they're using somebody else's mobile phone. So you should know, everything about competition. What new products are they launching? What are the schemes running in the market? What are the pricing? What is their service rules? What is the warranty rules? Everything. How are they selling? Are they selling online, offline? Are their prices different? What markets are they strong? Are they more North India focused or the South India focused? Are they targeting more teenagers or more old people? Everything needs to do. Right? So there is sales is a lot of hard work, a lot of preparation. Actually, the sales is not done in meetings. The sales is done much before you go for meetings. Right? Then objection handling. You should always do mock sales and figure out if a customer is saying no to me, why is he saying no? Is the customer irrational? Is my pitching wrong? Is the language I'm pitching very wrong? Right? Am I talking to the right person? Is it the wrong time to pitch? Right? For example, in a large part of India, they have this month of Shravan, right? Or on the Shraddh period. Therein people don't purchase things. If you keep on, even if you give the best discount, people are not going to buy. Right? So if you are planning to sell an AC, right? And if you go and sell it in cold winters in Jammu and Kashmir, nobody's going to buy. Right? So being aware of why is the customer buying, why the customer not buying, very important. Then what we also need to do is each salesperson individual should maintain a diary and write an FAQs, which is frequently asked questions. Every time you go and meet a customer, see, initially your sales will not be great. So every time a customer would ask you a question you don't have an answer to, note it down. Every time customer argues with you and says, no, you're wrong, note it down. So that, next time when you go and meet a customer, you're much more prepared and able to handle these questions. Right.
So Premanshu, I think before we move forward, can we take some of the questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So Tavish here asks,
Sir, can I
you
ask?
Yeah, please, Sunil, you can ask.
Sir, there is a lot of myths are associated with sales. कि सेल्स में टारगेट्स होते हैं, बहुत प्रेशर होता है, तो सर इसमें आपका क्या सजेशन है? क्या कहना चाहेंगे सर?
मेरा सेल्स में टारगेट तो होते हैं. Obviously, the सेल्स पर्सन का जॉब सेल्स करना होता है, राइट? उसको एक प्रोडक्ट मिलता है, वो प्रोडक्ट चूज भी नहीं करता है, वो कंपनी चूज करता है कि मुझे इस कंपनी में काम करता है, उसको ये काम मिलता है कि तुम ये जाके इसको सेल करके आओ. तो प्रेशर जॉब तो होता है, लेकिन बहुत रिवॉर्डिंग होता है. सेल्स क्या है? एक साइंस और आर्ट दोनों है. Once you start selling, your first sale is the toughest. right? Uske baad 10 sales become easier, 100 sale becomes much more easier because you've learned the art of selling, right? And I'll give you an example. I used to work for Shadi.com, right? And where people sell subscriptions, to find the right match. And I saw a lot of pattern. There was this guy who would only sell to males who are more than 30 years old. क्योंकि उसको वो समझ में आ गया था कि उसकी एज 30 साल के ऊपर हो गई, वो लोग शायद शादी के लिए डेस्परेट होंगे, तो they will buy purchase subscriptions. Or there was somebody who was only target parents of daughters, right? Because they know that maybe the father and the mother, they are retired now, and now they're worried about the marriage of their daughter. So is the target? It is always target, right? And that is why you need to be really sure that is sales the right job for you, right? But I have seen people make so much money in sales that it is not funny. That in certain organizations, especially in medical devices, people in just a couple of years of jobs have ended up buying a Mercedes or something like that. So it is tough. There is obviously pressure. So one, you should be cut out for it, and two, if you're driven, then you will get a lot of money, build a great career, and rise up the organization. Yeah.
So Premanshu, Tavish is asking, can you help with examples of B2B, 2C organizations and throw some light on the culture there in accordance to the importance of sales personnel there?
Okay. So B2C is, there is a business who's selling to a business who's basically selling to the end consumer. Okay. So let's look at the example of biscuits. Let's look at Oreo biscuits, right? So company is going to manufacture Oreo biscuits according to taste of the user, price it, package it, do an advertisement. It will basically give it to a distributor, right? Or give it to a retailer. And the retailer basically purchases it from the company. Okay, it is, they purchase, it's not that they might have some credit, but largely it is they pay in advance. And then the retailer sells it to a kid who comes to the shop. It's a loose example of a B2B, B2C, just to set an example. Now look at different stakeholders. The job of the company is to manufacture biscuits, pack it, price it, and do advertisement. It doesn't get real feedback about the end user because the company is not sitting at the retail outlet, trying to understand how is a kid choosing a packet? Why are some kids not doing it and picking up a competition product? The middleman, which is a distributor or retailer, has more understanding of user. It also controls the channel. At some point of time, if they get upset with the company, they can easily get a new biscuit and replace it. So it's more high risky as well, right? So I would say a B2B, B2C sale is more negotiation, right? You go to a distributor and he will give you access to maybe 100 shops or 1,000 shops at one go. Wherein if you directly go to retail outlet, you'll have to do 100 meetings with 100 guys. Here in one meeting, you are able to crack 100 shops. Other thing also is, but it is much easier to convert one shop than to convert a distributor, which means the life cycle of conversion of a B2B, is much longer than a B2C, right? And B2B, B2C is between B2B and B2C in that sense, right? So in a B2, B2C setup, when you do B2B, you are interacting with the, right? And when you're doing B2C, you're interacting with the user, correct? And users are very diverse. There are few distributors, but many users. Yeah. Did I answer it?
Yeah. So Devojit here asks Premanshu, what do you suggest is more important in sales, listening or speaking? And if both, in what ratio of both?
Yeah. So I think, it's a very good question. So it depends on what product are you selling or what market are you targeting. But largely, I would say the most important thing is listening to the customer. The first question you should ask is, why should a potential customer listen to you? He doesn't know me well, possibly. He's possibly more educated. He has exposure to more salespeople. We don't know what, what the user ate in the morning. Did he fight with his wife in the morning in terms of what mood he is in? Is he really interested in buying the product or just fishing? So the more information you have about the end customer, right, the more likely that you will convert the sale. So I would say listening for sure, 100%. And after you've spoken, you should mold your pitch according to what the customer said. For example, if you're talking to a customer who wants to buy a car, right, the first thing to do is understand the profile of the customer. Okay, where does he stay in the city? You have some idea of whether how his salary income is. Look at what car has he driven. What kind of wearing. Right? All of this to a salesperson is very important because you get signals from the user. What kind of mobile phone is he using? What language is he communicating in? To build some persona on the mind of the customer, then asking questions on, okay, what are you looking for in a car? Some people look at mileage, some people look at, so if somebody has come with a large family, he's possibly not looking at a sports car, right? But sports car can only sit 2 people. If somebody is coming with 6-7 people to buy a car, you have some idea that they're a joint family, or they maybe want a larger car. If somebody, so I think you need to get a lot of sense. Listen first, hone your pitches, and then speak to the customer and try converting it.
Last question before we move forward, Premanshu. Aryan asks, how do we assess whether a product is doing well?
Sure. So I will cover that, Aryan, later, but largely the way to look at it is look at the sales conversion funnel, right? So if the product is being pitched to 100 people, how many people are ended up buying that product? I'll give you a very, very simple crude example. Suppose you are selling biscuits. Okay. So what you need to do is put some biscuit packets on the counter of a shop and just sit and observe. First number, you should say sit for 1 day and see how many people came in and saw your biscuit packet or touched it. Out of that, how many people ended up buying the product? So you make a count. So suppose 50 people came and saw the biscuit, look at the packaging, look at the price, and 10 people ended up buying, which means 10 by 50, which is your conversion is 20%. Right? You should do the same thing for competition product and see what is the conversion. So you will get a sense of, is my conversion better than competition conversion or not? And then you should also look at conversion over a period of time. You should track conversion month on month. Maybe their conversion is high on weekends, right, than on weekdays. Correct? So that's one way to look at it. So it is always the answer is in trend. Look at conversion funnel, and then you should look at trends, week on week trend and month on month trends on conversion. If your conversion numbers are falling, which means that more new, old customers are not coming back, so there is no repeat happening, then you should find out why that has happened. Is the product quality bad, or has competition done something, or is it even the right kind of user in the shop? Should I not sell my product in a cheap shop, or should I not sell my product in a very expensive shop? So it's the most important thing to do the maths, is to look at how many people are buying upon how many people are exposed to the product. Yeah. Lakshita, move forward.
Yes, we should. Thank you for the answers.
Hello,
Right.
sir. I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, how can I increase our sales? Like, I achieve my target every month. Okay, sir. Like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh. Then I want to just achieve touch like a 15 lakh, 10 lakhs. So then what to do? Changes in our pitching or education or learning process and whatever, sir.
Correct. So I think the most it's a very good question. Right. So I'll give you 2 parts to it. Okay. First part is your hard work or drive to convert. I'll give an example. There was this guy I know. I don't want to name him. They just call him X. Okay. He came from a tier 3 town in Uttar Pradesh. Was not good at studies, so probably 3rd division BCom. Right, and he got a sales job in an oil company. and
Yeah.
his boss gave him a target that every day he needs to visit 2 shops and place their 5 liter oil on the counter. Only 2 a day.
Yeah.
So what it was, initially he went with his seniors, a lot of people, and they would tell him, go to a shop, talk like this to the customer, place the two cans of oil and come back, right? And keep on doing it every day. He realized that most of his colleagues would finish that in 4 hours, and they will then come back and sleep in the room, right? As people, nobody's tracked. You basically, he said this is not done. So he himself started putting it in 4 shops every day. Then he still had time left, started doing 8 shops. Okay. So obviously, because he was working very hard, he overachieved month on month. He started doing. But that gentleman, right, is the CEO of a very large company now, while all his colleagues and salespeople are still doing sales. The first thing is target should not be the ceiling.
Your voice is breaking.
Is it my voice is breaking?
No, you're completely audible, Premanshu. Sunil, you'll have to check your internet connection.
Okay.
Okay. So Sunil, that's the first part. The second thing is understanding your strength. What is your strength as a salesperson? Right? What are you good at selling? See, once you figure out, and this is what I'm trying to achieve in the end of the presentation, is that you should have framework and should say, this is Sunil ka playbook, that I am a seller. This is important for me. This is the kind of company I want to work for. This I'm good at. See, I'll give an example. How do you figure out if you're good in Hindi? Right? You basically need to look at your report card for the past 10 years and look at your marks. Right? If you're consistently getting good marks in some subject over the past year, which means you're good at that product or good at a subject. Similarly, in sales, you should always maintain a record of your month-on-month sale and say, are you doing better or are you doing worse? If you're doing better, then great. You should push more. If you're doing worse, you need to know why did I not do enough sales in February. Right? So all those, see, data will have all the answers, and everybody's conversion funnel will be very different. And that's why all your sales career journeys will also be very different. Okay, so just look at the sales funnel, and it is very important that each one of you have your own sale. Har product ka duniya mein sales funnel hota hai. Every product.
Okay. Sir, I have just another question, sir. Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sir, I work for like a IT sales company. Okay, sir. I sell every day of software. Okay. But when we found like a village lead, so how can convince to village people, because they don't know about software. So it is when sir, can I use Hindi?
Yeah, of course, बिल्कुल बताइए.
Yeah. तो जैसे विलेज जो पीपल रहते हैं गांव के हैं सर, तो वो सॉफ्टवेयर का नॉलेज नहीं आता सर. तो अब उनको कैसे कन्विंस करें सर? तो ये अगर जब सेल्स नहीं होते ऐसे टाइम पर सर, तो ये मेरा फॉल्ट है या मतलब आई कांट अंडरस्टैंड सर, है ना? ये सेल्स की प्रॉब्लम है या मेरा फॉल्ट है मतलब पिचिंग का?
मैं तुम्हें एक चीज बताता हूँ. ये एज अ सेल्स पर्सन तुमको ये बिलीव करना चाहिए, राइट? एज अ सेल्स पर्सन शुड बिलीव दैट एवरी कस्टमर कैन बी कन्वर्टेड. ये ना दिमाग में ये रूल होना चाहिए कि ऐसा कोई कस्टमर नहीं है जो कन्वर्ट नहीं होता. कुछ कस्टमर्स एक मीटिंग में कन्वर्ट होते हैं, एक दिन में कन्वर्ट होते हैं. कुछ कस्टमर 100 मीटिंग में कन्वर्ट होते हैं, 1 साल लगता है. तो दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग शुड टेल. यानी कि किसी सेल में बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है और कोई सेल आराम से हो जाती है. राइट? नाउ आई विल स्पेसिफिकली कम टू योर क्वेश्चन ऑन रूरल टियर 3 टाउन के लोगों को हम आईटी प्रोडक्ट कैसे बेचें. मैं तुम्हें एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ. मेरा एक दोस्त है संदीप. तो ना उसने अपना करियर, वो ही इज फ्रॉम बिहार. He started his career as a LIC agent. Okay. उस समय, this is about 20-25 years back. उस समय earning 2,000 rupees used to be a lot of thing in the month. 2,000, 5,000 in a village used to be a lot of money. So he wanted to sell life insurance, and he went to a village. Right? And वो village में जाके वो बहुत लोगों को मिला. He met about 25 people, but he got 0 sales. Because in the village, what people would come and tell me, कि अरे तुम तो डेथ की बातें कर रहे हो, मुझे क्या होने वाला है, right? Yeah. sell me product for death. Then they started telling him कि अच्छा तुम तो कल चले जाओगे, अगर मुझे क्लेम आएगा तो ये कौन करेगा, I don't know you. Right? Third thing, उसको लोग बोलने लगे कि you know ये तो हम यहाँ तो भगवान की मर्जी चलती है, हमें कुछ नहीं होने वाला, हमारे पास सब पैसा है, जमीन है. So he was not able to do any sales. Right? And then what he did is that he changed his approach to selling. Instead of going to everybody and trying to sell, he went to a temple and sat there. और वो वहाँ के पंडित से मिला और उसने पूछा कि ये बताइए कि who is the most respected person in the village? So they said there is a sarpanch. Okay, that sarpanch is educated and everybody listens to him. So what this person did was he went to the sarpanch, right, and started meeting every day, being pally with him. उनके रोज जो भी ऑब्जेक्शन वो करते थे, अगले दिन फिर जाता था, उसको आंसर करता था, फिर ऑब्जेक्शन, फिर आंसर. Eventually, after a month, the sarpanch got convinced that life insurance policy is great. So the sarpanch bought the policy, and when the sarpanch bought the policy, you know, everybody in the village bought the policy. So,
that's a great idea, sir. Yeah.
Right, finding the decision maker. Right, वो Sandeep Lohani did a sales of 8 crores in LIC, and he got the MD Chairman Award for highest sales. Right, so अपना ना approach change करना चाहिए. एक ही see, if you follow cricket, हर बॉल पे आप सेम शॉट नहीं खेलते. Right, बाउंसर पे अलग शॉट होता है, किसी पे कवर ड्राइव, किसी पे स्वीप. So depending on each customer, see, सबसे पहले माइंड से ब्लॉकेज हटाना चाहिए कि ये तो, मुझे ऐसा लगा कि तुम्हारा माइंड में पहले ये डाउट है कि ये तो विलेजर है, इसको आईटी क्या समझ में आएगा.
हाँ, ये चीज था मेरा डाउट. यस,
वो वहीं पे गलती है. ये सोचना चाहिए कि ये विलेजर है, इसको तो टेक्नोलॉजी की जरूरत है, तो इसके फायदे का प्रोडक्ट है, तो मैं इसको कैसे पिच करूं कि इसको फायदा दिखाऊं. दिस इज द आर्ट ऑफ अ सेल्स पर्सन.
या बिल्कुल सर. और सर सेल्स में, आईटी सेल्स में करियर क्या रहेगा सर, मतलब?
Hi Naman, while we are super elated to have all the questions, and I think we can, given the time commitments that we have to follow, हम question answers थोड़ा सा बाद में लेंगे. Let's just go through the presentation, and we anyway appreciate that you are asking a lot of questions. Premanshu, let's continue.
Okay. So ना हर प्रोडक्ट का और हर एक सेल्स पर्सन का एक सेल्स फनल होता है, which you need to, right, and I basically it starts with lead. Okay, so let's look at IT sales, because Naman gave that example. You first need to make a list of all the people, or you know, or all the companies, depending on whether it's B2B or B2C, who are potential for this customer. So let's say you make a list of 100 companies. In that 100 company, you look at, you know, you identify some 20-30 companies based on your location, their price point, right? Do they use our product already? So on different parameters you can select, and which is what is called the qualified opportunity. 100 is your total market, usme 30 is qualified, which means they have a potential to buy the product. Out of that 30, and these are just examples, right? Out of that 30, you try reaching out to these 30 people. Out of the 30 people, suppose you have reached out to only 15 people. किसी ने phone नहीं उठाया, somebody never gave you a meeting, right? In the online world, somebody did not come to your website. So then you say, out of 30, 15 people I was able to connect, which is called connections. Out of 15 people that you were able to connect, how many people were you able to pitch your product? Say example, out of 15 people, 10 people heard your pitch. 5 लोगों ने बोला time नहीं है, I'm not interested, so they left. So then, which is a pitch, or they did a discussion, and it could be multiple discussions, 1 discussion, 10 discussions. So out of 15 people whom you could connect, 10 people did a discussion. Out of that 10 people, 5 people said, yeah, I like the product, I'll pay after a week, which means they are promising to pay. Okay. Out of that 5 people who said promise to pay, eventually after 1 week, only 2 people ended up paying. Right? So what numbers did I say? 100, then 30, then 15, then 10, then 5, then 2. So this is the entire sales funnel. So if somebody would ask you what is a conversion, your conversion is, say, your question should be, are you asking me lead to conversion or qualified lead to conversion? If it's lead to conversion, you will say 2%, right? 2 out of 100 is what I was able to sell. Okay. What is a qualified? Then 2 out of 30, right? Yani, which is about 7-8%, right? This is what my pitch is. Now, every product, every month, you should create this funnel and see क्यों important है. हमको ये पता लगना चाहिए, right? Like in what Naman was saying, कि कहाँ पर problem हो रही है. ये funnel हमको diagnose करता है, कि बताता है कि where exactly the problem lies. Okay, and I'll just try to cover it. Okay. Suppose your connections to lead ratios is low, right? Which means that 30 people you are identified as potential, but you're only able to reach to 15 people, which means your ratio is 50%, 15 upon 30. इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि you need to say, is 50% a great number? Maybe yes, maybe no. But if you look at your colleagues, if he is able to connect with 25 people, okay, then you should know that. Can you go on mute? Somebody is talking. Yeah. So if you're not able to connect, then you should change the way to connect. In the modern world, you can do anything. You can target them on digital media, social media. You can send them letters. You can go to their house. You can go to their office. You know that you need to move your 15 connections to 20 connections, right? So maybe you're not able to connect or change the pitch. Second thing to look at is that out of 15 people who agreed to talk to you, only 10 people heard your pitch, which basically meant was that either you got them at the wrong time, they were rushing to office, or they were going on a holiday, or your way of pitching wasn't right. So you're pitching on Zoom, but your internet quality is not good, or you're pitching to a rural person, you're talking in English, right? So you need to know whether this ratio is right or not. Now, out of people who heard your pitches and people said, "Haan, hum paise bhar denge." If you're seeing that only 5% people after listening to your pitch are agreeing to pay, which means there is something wrong either in the product or in the pitch, right? Or in the pricing or your competition. So you need to then ask those people who didn't agree to pay कि आपने हमारा product क्यों नहीं लिया? Why do you give me one honest reason why you don't want the product? And that is, you should go and tell the company that this is why people are not buying. And the last is when people agree to make the payment. Right? Normally 80-90% of people who said, I will pay, end up paying. If the number is very low, which means either the customers are lying to get rid of you, or your payment gateway is not right, or somebody offered them a better price, which means that why give a customer 1 week to make the payment? If the customer is convinced, you should tell him, oh, why didn't you make the payment now? And he will say, okay, I don't have money to pay right now. So, oh, okay, why didn't you take a loan? I have tied up with X finance company. But somebody says, no, I want to make the payment online. You say, okay, this is the link to make payment online. Somebody says, I need to pay in a wallet. You say, okay, use the Paytm wallet to pay. If somebody says, no, I don't have any credit card, debit card, I only have cash. You say, okay, I'll send somebody to collect the cash. Right? So looking at the funnel is going to tell you where the problem lies. Okay? If you are only getting, say, 10 qualified leads, right? No matter how hard you try, you'll only end up doing 2-3 sales. But if you're getting 100 qualified leads, which means that there are more chances that you will be able to meet your target if you get more leads or better quality leads and you're a good pitcher. Yeah. Okay. So this is till now we just talked about the whole science of sales, right? Identifying. I'll just recap. What are you a salesperson? What is important for you? What's a good company to work for? What is a sales funnel? And the entire maths of sales. What you should know. I'm just moving to the art of selling, right? See, in life and in specifically in sales, if you look at the top straight line, which is goal set to goal achieved, life and sales is not like that. It is not going to be very easy wherein you say, I have the product, you knock at somebody's door, or you give a call and say, hey, I have this product, and customer says, great, here is the money. It is not simple. The real journey of a salesperson is what is shown below, right? It is like ups and downs. One day you'll have a great day, next you'll have a really bad day. 1 month you'll achieve your target, next month you'll not achieve it. But the most important for a salesperson is persuasion, right? One is never leave a customer. Even if he's not buying this month, try next month. He's not buying next month, try next month. Always be in touch with the customer, persuade him. Follow up. Follow up is such an important thing. If there's some data which says that 70% of sales is closed in between 5 to 8 meetings. And most of the sales guys give up in the 4th meeting, right? They'll try once, second time, third time, then they say, oh, customer is not buying, we'll leave it. But globally, most sales are converted after the 5th meeting, right? So first thing is, the real sales journey life cycle is set your goal, keep on meeting the customer. You will see failure, you only 10% target achievement, you keep on trying. Then you will suddenly see that, oh, more and more customers are getting convinced. And the customer says, oh, come call tomorrow, I'll buy the product. And then he stops picking up your phone. But you still follow up, do something else next month. And then you eventually, you will always be victorious. Right? So always keep that in mind. Never lose patience. Each day is a new day. Each month is a new month. Okay. Always follow up. Right? This is also underrated. Like this is example I gave on the rural IT thing. You should always know so much about the customer, so that you can keep on changing your strategy. For example, when I was in sales, used to write a 1 page on the customer. And it used to be like this. My customer's name is Palak, right? She's 25 years old. She's a homemaker. She gets up at 6 in the morning, goes for a walk, reads a Hindi newspaper at 8, right? Then goes to work at 10 in a cab. In the cab, she reads Economic Times. She meets so many people. On weekends, she hangs out with people. She watches this particular serial. Then she goes to a movie or on the weekend. Everything about the customer. Now, what I know is that now I can identify what are the customer touch points. If the customer goes for a walk in the park, which means as a company, I can put hoardings in the park, or I can stand at the gate of the park. If the customer reads newspaper, I can give a newspaper ad. If a customer goes driving in a car and listens to radio, you can put radio jingles. If a customer goes on parties, should I do deals and offers in the party in pubs and restaurants? So understanding the customer life cycle is very important. So even if it's about selling IT products in rural, you need to know the life cycle. When do farmers have money? Which means after they have sold the crops. If you go very late and meet them, they'll not be able to buy because they don't have money, right? So identifying who are the customer friends, who is the decision maker. Is the person I'm talking to the decision maker, or he's just a very junior guy who's collecting information? Who is the influencer? So like somebody who's a 15-year-old teenager, they find their joy on Instagram. So you need to connect with them on Instagram, which is figuring out who are the influencers, what celebrities they follow, what books they read. Yeah. So all of this, and you should go whole hog. Okay. When you have to convert a sale, you need to cover the customer from all sides. The kind of people he meets, get references, ask them to refer, meet customers, send them training material, send them information, call them to office, anything is required. So the area of influence of the customer is extremely important. And this is also an art. If the customer agrees to go out on a coffee with you, or comes to a conference that you organize, which means he's convinced, right? And always remember, a customer buys a salesperson before he buys the product. So first you have to sell yourself. Why are you the right person to, sell that product? Yeah. So when you do all of that, right, you will have your own playbook. Right? My playbook is, I'm a seller who likes to work in a B2C company and in an MNC, because I think, I need more exposure and it's a much bigger market. And at some point in time, I want to go abroad and do it. Right. The way to and I like B2C product, which means I need to understand digital products. I need to understand social media, which means I connect with people on LinkedIn or Facebook. I send them invites. I do Zoom calls with them. So everybody, each player in a football team has his own strategy. So as a salesperson, you should also have a playbook. So which is maintain a diary, write all the numbers, everything, your experiences every day. That is going to help you make a good playbook for yourself. And once you have that playbook, once you know that this is my style, this is my strategy, you are never going to fail in life because you know yourself so well. Right. And like I say, being a salesman is like running a marathon and also running 100 meters. If somebody was saying, is it stressful? Every month you have to meet your numbers, but also you have to survive like a salesman for the next 40 years. Right. So it's the right balance. You should know when to run fast, when to run slow, right? How to create funnels. Every day you don't need to start from zero. If you have a sales prospect from last month, people have not bought, and they spill over to the next month, it's much easier to always have funnels in place, right? Yeah, that's what I had to say. I think we are good on time, maybe 5 minutes off. Yeah, and all the best to the Juno team. I think it's a great initiative.
Thank you, Premanshu.
It's really going to help people. Yeah, open to question.
I think a great session that I personally learned a lot. I had a lot of takeaways. I think my favorite takeaway was that your conversions actually typically start happening after your 5th meeting. That's something that's awesome to know, I think. And you're right when you say that mostly after your 4th meeting, you give up on a client. That happens with me a lot of times. So, yeah. So with this, I think we are open for questions. Quick announcement here. If you want your certificates for your attendance here, you can write to us at hello@junoschool.org. We will be also giving you all the recorded sessions for the for this session. Your recorded versions will be available to you. So, and with that, I'll ask questions. I think Premanshu Harsh is asking how many follow-ups should be done in a week? And when should we follow up, like busy days or free days?
Yeah. So like, it depends on the industry product, but typically, so you should never irritate a customer. He should not think that the salesperson is following too much. And see, it depends. In the new age world, people don't like to get calls, right? They want the empowerment to choose the product themselves. So they will basically go and read reviews on their own instead of calling somebody up like in old age that tell me about the product, right? Kind of a thing. So I think the right answer is you should gauge, in every call or meeting that you have with the customer, that is he getting more convinced or less convinced? If he's getting more convinced, which means that you have to meet him more frequently, right? So that he doesn't get distracted. Right. And if you think that with every meeting he's going farther away, then I think I would say give it some cooling period. Don't talk to the customer for a week, 10 days, 15 days, so that he settles down and then start fresh with a new pitch. Yeah. See, every product and company that you work in, you will see that on average, X meetings and X follows make conversions happen.
Yeah.
So doing more than that would mean that you are stretching yourself too hard and wasting your time on this customer. If you're doing less, then your conversion funnel is low.
Yeah. I think a follow-up question here from Anupam, what should be the frequency is something that you've already answered. How to make the customer pick the call while following up, and how to optimize so that the customer listens to the pitch in the sales funnel.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is timing, right? You don't know what's going in the life of a customer when you're calling. So that's why cold calls have very low conversion.
Yeah.
Because it's purely based on luck. The guy is free kind of thing as well. So the most important thing is to do sales with respect, which means that schedule a call.
Yeah.
Tell a customer, I need 10 minutes of your time. When are you available? And block the calendar, do the call. Then it's a more respectful thing. It looks more professional to do it, right? And which means you have bought that 10 minutes with you. He will listen to you for 10 minutes. And then you can pitch there, in that sense. So there are tricks in the call center industry, very low end industry, wherein they keep on changing the numbers. To call the customer, use WhatsApp kind of thing. But I don't think these are long-term strategies. If a customer gets irritated, he'll block all your numbers and eventually he'll block you forever. Right? So I think do it professionally, schedule meetings, ask for time. See, normally people, if you ask politely and give them a right reason to do, and your pitch should not be buy my product. The pitch should be, I want to help you solve this problem. Right? If your pitch is that, then I don't see a reason why somebody will not give you 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I think what typically I've been doing, Premanshu, and correct me if I'm wrong doing that, is that if somebody doesn't pick up the call, I probably leave them a message stating the reason why I call them, and maybe then scheduling for a call.
Correct. Exactly. That's the right way to do it. Do it professionally.
So Amal here asks, could you talk about sales closing techniques? Also, could you shed some light on the product-led sales strategies and referrals? So long question here.
Sure. Yeah. So it's actually a very good question. One is there are two sets of people in a conversion funnel. People who end up buying the product, and then people who don't end up buying the product. So people who end up buying the product are your ambassadors who know something worked for them. So those people, you should always ask for referrals, saying that, because he will call up a friend and say, I bought this product. And there is no better sales pitch than saying, I am doing it, right? Why don't you do it as well? Right? So always ask for, if you ask for 5 references, nobody's going to give it to you. You need to ask for just 1 reference, maybe max 2. Second thing is if you look at people who haven't bought, see, all the people who haven't bought a product are not same. They're also in a spectrum. Some people basically hate you or hate the product. Those people, you should just say thank you and move out, or maybe take a feedback. Then there are people who are half convinced, who possibly didn't like the price or maybe not the right time, right? So you still want to be involved with them. For those people, ask them for references, saying that I know that you don't want to buy because it's expensive. Can you give me suggestions on how should I improve my pitch, or anybody in network who should be willing to buy? So those people are wanting to help because they're 50% convinced. Second part of the question, closure. See, the most important part of closure to me is doing it now. If you don't close it today, it is not going to close tomorrow. So everything sales closure is in the heat of the moment. That when the customer is convinced, that is a time you have to make, you have to ensure that he makes the payment. If somebody comes and says, I'll do the payment tomorrow, 50% of sales is not going to happen. Right? So sales is all about timing.
Great insight there, I think. So Vivek asks, as a fresher in sales career, should we keep switching between organizations for growth, or should we stick to one organization for a longer period of time? In what scenario can we expect better growth, assuming that one is performing decently?
Yeah, so very good question. I think it depends on how do you look at your career. I'm assuming if you're roughly early 20s and you will at least work for 40 years. So your career plan should not be a 5-year plan. It should be a 40-year plan, which means that don't be in too much hurry to make a lot of money in early life, in my view. That first couple of years, like when I started my career, I said first 5 years of my life, I'm going to learn. So I would look at only learning opportunities, not look at anything else. So how big the company is didn't matter. So when I say learning, what kind of people, are my colleagues? Right? Is my boss more knowledgeable than me? Is it a new age product which is tailwind, right? Which means I'll get to learn more. Is the company giving me freedom to do things? Is switching jobs? I would say avoid as much as possible, right? You should switch jobs if nothing is working out, if the culture is really bad, right? Or you have your personal reasons of change in geography, right? And see, at the, your priority in life needs to keep on changing. So I would say continue in a company But you should also look at, is it working for you? Which is, are you meeting your numbers month on month or not? So don't get in a situation wherein you have not met your numbers for the past 6-8 months and still say, I don't want to change, right? Because then eventually they will ask you to move out. And you should move out before they ask you to go out, right? So, yeah.
So I think before we close the session, and Anupam, we will come to your question. Himadri, you had something to say. You had raised your hand.
Yeah, thanks, Palak. Hi, Premanshu. Good afternoon. My name is Himadri. I'm part of the Juno school.
Yeah.
So if you allow me, I would add a bit here to the example that you quoted from the village.
Sure.
So नमन आपने एक सवाल पूछा था and I think प्रिमांशु ने आपको एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल दिया था. तो villages में normally क्या होता है, decision makers और decision influencers बहुत strongly काम करते हैं because वहाँ पे buying mostly relationship based होती है. तो जैसे गांव के सरपंच हो गए या मंदिर के पुजारी हो गए या पोस्ट मास्टर हो गए या हेड मास्टर हो गए. तो मैं आपको एक सजेशन दूंगा. इनफैक्ट दिस गोज टू एवरीबडी इन द फोरम टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस कल्चर ऑफ बाइंग इन द विलेजेस. देयर इज अ मूवी कॉल्ड स्वदेश. I don't know if you've seen it. That's where Shah Rukh Khan goes and he convinces all these decision makers and influencers. So इस सेशन के बाद जब भी आपको टाइम मिले आजकल, watch that movie Swadesh and that will give you insights on how villagers buy. That's about it. That's all I wanted to add. Thanks.
I think it's a great addition. Yeah.
Hi, this is Gaurav here. Premanshu, so we talked about village. So how about the large corporations? Like if we are dealing the companies like HUL or even your organization like Paytm, how we will identify the decision maker or influencer?
Yeah. So if you look at a large organization, it's large. The question is, how is it large? Which means, does it have a lot of people or does it have a lot of revenue? Right? Right? Is it large by value? Is it large by valuations? Is it large by number of people? Is it large because they have multi-city offices, or do they have too many businesses? Right. So first question is that. First thing to look at a closure in a corporate is to understand the organizational structure. Right. Mm-hmm. Who does what? If you should not go with the first person you're meeting, saying, "Oh, this guy is going to help me." It doesn't work. Right? Because a large corporation has a lot of structure and a lot of process. 70-80% of time, goes wasting figuring out who's the right person. Right? So identify who the decision maker is. See, if you want to sell something, if you go to the marketing team, you'll typically, they will entertain you, listen to you, but it's never going to get a closure because it's not their decision. You need to go to the purchase team. You also need to speak to people in finance. Right? So first is identifying, right? Is identifying who the decision maker is. What are the structures in the organization? Who does what? Timing of purchase. When do they do the purchases? What is the process of purchase? Do they do it through tenders, or do they do it through some other way? Is speak to there are influencers in the organization as well. So speak to people who have spent a lot of years in the company. Maybe people who are who understand the power centers, right? Then what are do's and don'ts? A lot of times your company, is it qualified even to sell or not? Because these companies have qualification parameters that we only buy from companies who are 10-year-old or have so much revenue or have these certificates. So also do all that lot of work. So B2B selling is that way, it takes a lot of time. Right? They will never get convinced. It takes time, but once you get it, they give you a bulk order. Right? So okay, maybe last
Thanks.
Yeah.
Madhuri, wanted to add something here?
Yeah, Gaurav, so you asked a question and you typically named HUL, right? So HUL, Hindustan Unilever has already started a project way back in 2001. This is called Project Shakti. So if you want, you can Google and find out. So the strategy that they are undertaking is that they are roping in the rural women. So the local villagers, the ladies there, and they are giving them small supplies of products, which they are in, selling it and pushing it within the villagers. So you can Google Project Shakti. So this is a program that HUL has already started in 2001. So just to answer your question.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. ITC had this project called E-Chopal. Hindustan Lever had something called
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of information on internet if you want to.
Last
Okay.
question, I think, Premanshu,
Yeah,
for the day. Anupam asks, how does the strategy and pitch change with every step of follow-up?
Yeah. So, you know, your sales playbook will say, these are 5 unique selling points about my product. Okay. It's a new age product. It works across, say, age group. It has health benefits, blah, 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 whatever. It has lifetime warranty. Now you need to, after you've heard the customer, you need to know which is the most important thing for a customer. So maybe, like example of Hindustan Lever, maybe they'll want a lifetime warranty because they don't want to follow up every time. So out of the 5 things, what's the first thing you pitch? And convince them on the first thing, right? And then once the user is convinced on it, every time you meet, just reiterate the fact that, oh, we spoke about this and this, I think you were great at. What is the next objection? What is the next objection? So it's basically, if a customer needs to have answers to these 5 questions, right? And you need to know what 4 have you already answered, and what is that one thing that, you know, is not getting convinced on. Identifying which is what I said earlier in the slide called objection handling. What is the customer objecting to? Right? Maybe he's convinced of about 4 things, 1 is not. You pitch harder once or twice. He's still not convinced. Get a senior, right? Get the MD of the company to talk to, or get the customer to talk to a happy customer who's convinced on that. Right? So it will keep on changing on the stage, life cycle of the pitch. You know, you don't pitch the price on the first call normally. You first pitch the benefits of the product. Right? You first pitch the company you come from, you pitch yourself, and eventually as the meetings progress, you start handling objections. So I think it depends on product and you know, at what life stage it is. Yeah. Okay.
That's it, I think. Thank you, Premanshu. It was lovely having you. I think a lot of us
Same.
learned a lot of things, and we look forward to actually being in touch with you over LinkedIn also. And I think that is how we will grow with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in and staying there for about 1 hour, 20 minutes. It's lovely.
Okay. Thank you so much, and all the best.
Thank you so much. And all the best. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.